before we jump into what we do with this thing, we should probably define it.
Yes.
So we may have some slightly different definitions, but I'm curious, when someone grabs you and says, okay, I've been told I need to watch my leadership brand, I need to pay attention to my brand. What are they talking about? What would you tell them?
I think the easiest definition is, what do people say about you when you're not in the room?
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
I mean, that's your brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really why 360 feedback is so valuable, because you're getting that anonymous feedback. That's really the feedback about what people are thinking about you. But I think when you're not in the room and what they say about you is your brand.
Yeah, I love that Americanism, your ears must have been burning.
Your ears must have been burning.
Because whenever someone says that to me, what they're saying is, oh, I was in a meeting or a coffee conversation and your name came up. Mm-hmm. And I always think to myself, whatever they say next is my brand.
Yes.
Right? So if they say, hey, Brandon, your ears must have been burning. We were talking about what a lovable train wreck you are. The lovable train wreck would be my brand.
That's
right?
my brand.
But it matters. I had a senior HR leader tell me a few years ago, and I think it's so simple but so profound. The 3 most important conversations about anyone's career happen when they're not in the room.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Are we going to hire the person? Right? Mm-hmm. Are we going to promote the person? And then hopefully not the last conversation. Are we inviting this person to find another home?
Yeah, spot on.
But your brand's there. It's either opening doors for you and advocating for you or potentially holding you back. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that you see from clients that are either missteps or things that maybe can cause damage to the brand?
Well, I'm really fond of looking at a topic and then kind of backing up and saying, well, what gets us to this discussion? And I think part of the challenge is our clients, all the business leaders we work with, they're just running so fast. They've got blinders on. They're just focusing on getting from meeting to meeting, task to task. They've got so much on their plate that they're not paying attention. They're not looking in the mirror, for one. They're not looking for cues. They're not paying attention to the room, reading the room well. And they probably don't recognize that they're doing things that are damaging their brand. Here's a good example. You and I talk a lot about communication and responsiveness with our clients.
Yeah.
I'm really busy. I'll get to that email later. 5 days go by and you haven't responded. Well, you don't think much of it because you're busy, but the other person thinks you don't have credibility. The other person, as our friend John Kim says, remember, responsiveness is cheap currency.
Yeah.
That's a great way to damage your brand that people don't think about. You're busy and one of your colleagues, one of your teammates comes up to you and asks you a question, and you just give them a really short answer, and you think, totally justified, I'm busy, right? But that person took it as, you don't have time for me. You don't think I'm worth your time. You're not really interested in my growth or development. So there's all kinds of ways, I think, that innocently we probably are doing damage to our brand. We're scratching the tip of the iceberg with what I just said, but there's plenty more.
Yeah, I think so. I find it's almost more challenging in some cases if the leaders knew, because sometimes they're tasked with a certain goal or objective, and if they pursue it too intently, it can cause issues. So I had a leader that I was coaching this week and received some 360 feedback, and he's in a transformation portion of the business. He's got to transform a lot of the business. And so he's moving really, really fast, and there's a lot to get his hands around. And so there's so many locations and sites, he can't see everybody. He's got to communicate all over email. And it's very operational, not very relational. It's like, we've got to get stuff done. So because of that, the brand he's getting is, he really doesn't care about relationships. He's not really interested in building those. He's just all about the task. He just primarily communicates over email. We want to spend more FaceTime with him, but he doesn't want to do that because, he doesn't care, is what they might say. Now, that's not true. He's just been tasked with a really big job, and there's a lot to get done. But he's got to kind of balance some of those things a little bit. Sometimes that can be a challenge. Absolutely. And, there's a candor session that I lead in the Leadership Foundry. I typically do the candor work. And I often talk, if you remember, about it's important that we think about candor as a two-way street. It's a two-way conversation. Most people deliver candor in a way that they're comfortable with, and they feel like, okay, I've been candid, and they walk away. They don't think about getting the other person ready to receive the candor, right? So think about brand in maybe a similar way. We often do things and say things, and we just act, but we don't think about the reaction of the people in front of us. We don't take the time to think about, how did what I just say land with you?